about thinking about raising interest rates to the year 2024. But my observation was, I had an asset, it's now non-performing. You know, my finance is non-performing, my equity is dead in the water, my chances of turning this around are zero because after doing 100 things for a decade, they're zero. My human capital is about to be stripped away. And so I have a choice between a fast death or a slow death. And so it was time to make a decision to choose a side. And I felt like if I give the money back to the shareholders, conventional wisdom is, you know, give the capital back to the shareholders because you idiot, you're getting 0% interest and us brilliant investors are getting, you know, S&P's up 25% this year. Okay, so I could just give the money away. Well, I took 30 years to accumulate the money. Why should I give up 30 years of my life? 2,000 people did a million things right, and I'm just going to give it up and slink into my hole and disappear from history. And I thought, that's not very appealing. Well, I can keep the money at 0% interest, but I'm boiling, right? The environment is boiling my employees off, and it's a slow death, not a fast death, but it's a slow, certain death. Or I can fight, right? And so paradigm shift, war. It wasn't the war on COVID, it was the war on currency combined with the war on COVID. And in that circumstance, yeah, I'm standing there and I'm thinking, I wasn't put on the earth to lose like this. Like, this is not how I'm going to go out. And so I started looking for a solution. And I said, well, it's pretty obvious operating companies are discriminated against. People that do things are being discriminated against. I want to be one of those guys that owns things. But I don't want to own sovereign debt. If I'm owning the T-bill, the government's just told me T-bills are worthless. I better go find something else to own. So I started thinking, well, what can I buy? Am I going to buy art? Am I going to buy a building? Well,
how much time were you spent thinking about this at this point? Like, is this like 16 hours a day?
Well, you know, so I was there and I thought, well, what can you buy? It's like, can I buy real estate? And the answer is, well, real estate just doubled in value over a few weeks because Jerome jacked the price of interest to zero. So that's not good. Can I buy a portfolio of stocks? They just went to an all-time high because we jacked the interest rate to zero. That's no good. Can I buy a portfolio of collectible art? Oh yeah, good luck with, like, how do I find $500 million of Picassos and Monets attractively priced? That's not, and by the way, we're now, we're struggling with, you're looking at a guy after 30 years in business and an engineering education, reasonably educated, but not a classically trained economist, not an Austrian economist. I am struggling with the time-honored question, what is money? Mm-hmm. I need a liquid, fungible asset which will store my economic energy for an indefinite period of time. Mm-hmm. That is, and so what is money? I'm looking for money. And eventually I get to gold. And I'm thinking, should I buy $500 million of gold? And, my attorney, he looks at me and goes, Mike, I remember when gold was $800 an ounce back in the 70s or the 80s, and then it went nowhere for 20 years, and you should be careful about that. And it might not, it's kind of dead money. And then so I'm sitting at this table and I'm watching the world burn while all the Wall Street guys get rich and the talking heads on CNBC say what they're saying. And I'm looking out at Miami Beach and I'm looking at Collins Avenue, and every car is not, there's no cars on the road except for an Amazon truck, which just makes me angry. One Amazon truck going by. And I've got 82 birds in my backyard and they're hunting for worms because all the restaurants in Miami Beach shut down. So whoever was feeding them is not feeding them. So I'm watching us strip the world back to the Stone Age, right? A devolution. And I'm staring over my pool and I look at Eric and I say, Eric, tell me about that Bitcoin thing again. And Eric was a crypto entrepreneur and he had been investing in digital assets and crypto. And I had dismissed him 2 years earlier in 2018. I was like, oh, that's probably just a scam coin. That's going to collapse. But, everybody finds this when if I tell you you got 6 months to live, you would go looking for a cure. And if I told you every asset that you hold in Canada is going to be seized from you within 6 months,
That could happen.
you would think about how you're going to get your money out of Canada.
Yeah, we already thought about that.
You know, and the point is, you didn't think about it for the 20 years of your career when it just wasn't the priority.
Yeah.
And then when you're faced with a crisis, a challenge, you start thinking.